Hello and welcome to the real streets of crime. Today we will be looking at the life and crime and unsolved murder of Sherome Blair aka Drummer aka Moneybags. The family of a man who died after he was shot in the head in Sydenham Hill refused to believe he took his own life, a court heard. An inquest at Southwark Coroner's Court took place today into the death of Sherome Blair, 34, who was found dead on August 21 last year, the day before he was due in court. A jogger stumbled upon Mr. Blair's lifeless body slumped in a wooded area off Sydenham Hill, found with a revolver resting on the fingertips of his left hand. Mr. Blair, who his mother testified was right-handed, suffered a fatal gunshot to his right temple, prompting questions from family members as to how the gun could have ended up in his left hand, the court heard. In a statement read to the court, his mother Winsome Green Blair said she saw her son almost every day and they had a good relationship. Speaking about her last contact with her son, Ms. Green Blair said, "He came into my room, kissed me goodbye, said see you later or tomorrow. I never saw my son alive again." She told the court. "I just don't believe my son killed himself." In his statement, Mr. Blair's brother Jordan said he had been as happy as can be leading up to his death. He too was unaware of any fights or gang involvement, describing Mr. Blair as someone who loved life. Detective Inspector John Hughes, the senior investigating officer in the case, said a black smartphone found near Mr. Blair was examined by officers. Giving evidence during the inquest, Dead Inspector said several searches were made on the phone on the morning of August 20. He said, "It would appear that Sherome was in the flat on his own when he made that final search of firearms, shooting yourself, information on suicide using a gun." Almost a month after Mr. Blair's death, another man was arrested following the discovery of someone else's DNA on the gun, Hughes told the court. The man, who is still facing charges for possession of firearms, explained the presence of his DNA by saying he may have handled the weapon whilst he was purchasing guns in 2011. He also provided an alibi to police for the night Mr. Blair died, the court heard. Asked by the family's barrister, Kirsten Sjovel, whether any connections were found between the man and Mr. Blair, given that they had both spent time in prison, Dead Inspector said officers did not find a link. He said the police did consider the possibility of a staged suicide, but the lividity the way the blood settles after death indicated that Mr. Blair's body had not been moved. Ms. Sjovel also raised questions about a baseball hat which had been worn by Mr. Blair when he was discovered but was not damaged in the shooting. She asked Dead Inspector, "Is it possible the hat, in order to have been persevered so intact, was simply placed on Sherome's head after the shot was administered?" Dead Inspector told the court it was possible, but he thought it was unlikely and admitted the hat was not submitted for DNA testing to rule out the possibility. Coroner Harris said there was no evidence the body had been moved, ruling out the verdict of unlawful killing. He said, Mr. Blair clearly has a gambling habit. I know his family said he had only gambled with William Hill, prepaid, but he could well have undisclosed debts from other gambling which his brother didn't know, but that would be speculation. There was a court case. Large sums of drugs and money were involved, he could have been stressed about this. He said Mr. Blair's internet searches were highly suggestive that he had taken his own life, but were not enough to prove intent. Coroner Harris praised Mr. Blair's family who were in court, saying they conducted themselves with great dignity. After the inquest, Ms. Green Blair said, "We are relieved that the verdict was not suicide. We are very disappointed with the police investigation. We never believed that our son and brother had killed himself, and we still don't." This is the man James Brown whose DNA was found on the murder weapon of Mr. Blair, a millionaire cocaine addict who retired abroad at the age of just 36 after making his fortune has been jailed after police found a haul of drugs hidden in his luxury car. Property developer James Brown's habit was so bad his nose collapsed after 9 years of daily cocaine use. The 45-year-old has now been jailed for 5 years after a haul of cocaine was found hidden in the air vents and folding roof of his luxury Bentley. Brown was arrested by police in his Bentley Continental convertible as he stayed in a luxury hotel once owned by men behaving badly star Neil Morrissey. He was found with more cocaine and a collection of illegal guns in the hotel. Prosecutor Craig Jones said, Brown, through property dealing, became very wealthy and at 36 retired to Portugal where he was introduced to cocaine. Swansea Crown Court heard how Brown used his legitimate money to fund his cocaine addiction. But he snorted so much cocaine on a daily basis it led to paranoia, heart problems, and severe deformity of his nose as the drug ate away the cartilage of his septum and his nostrils. He said Brown became paranoid about his own safety and acquired the haul of illegal handguns. Mr. Blair also has previous convictions for firearms. A raver was locked up for 3 years today after damaging property at a nightclub. A security dog called Shogun was shot. Fuming Sherome Blair, 20, callously gunned down the Japanese Akita dog after being rejected entry to the club. Sherome was sent to Portland prison for 3.5 years for this offense, but it was not his only offense. 3 men who stole almost £300,000 in diamonds from a jeweler's have been jailed for 9 years each. Justin Phillip, 25, David Mayer, 21, and Sherome Blair, 22, all from South London, admitted the robbery at the Ace of Diamonds in London on 2 June 2003. The Old Bailey heard 12 men dressed in helmets pulled up outside the Hampton Garden shop on high-powered motorbikes. Judge Christopher Moss said, "This was a professional crime, carefully and brutally executed. The ferocious robbery took place. It was almost like a military operation." He also praised acts of great bravery after the court heard how a policewoman and security guard stopped some of the robbers from escaping. The court heard how some of the gang pushed their way inside the shop and stole a tray of gems which were being shown to a doctor and a nurse. Security guards outside were wrestling with other members of the group who were trying to break security glass windows with sledgehammers. Graham Hannock, a security guard, pulled Phillip to the ground and sat on him, despite having a shotgun and a handgun pointed at him, said Nina Crinian, prosecuting. And a female police officer chased after Mayer, but in Farringdon Road he stopped and pointed a gun at her. When she ordered him to put it down and arrested him, she discovered it was an imitation. Blair, who was also chased by a constable into the same road, was arrested in a pub after punching the officer, Miss Crinian added. The Old Bailey was told the rest of the gang escaped with £263,000 worth of diamonds. None of the gems was recovered. Lawyers for the 3 men said they had sledgehammers during the robbery and had not used firearms. Outside court, Detective Chief Inspector Jim Dickey of Scotland Yard's Flying Squad said, "I think the judge's sentences reflect the serious and professional nature of this offense." When Blair was in prison he still could not stop his offending, but this was of a different nature. A female prison guard who sent explicit video and texts to violent armed robber she fell in love with jailed for 8 months. Abby Levins formed an inappropriate relationship with armed robber Sherome Blair. The 32-year-old prison officer became besotted with Blair and told him she loved him. Sent him a pornographic video of herself to mobile phones he smuggled into prison. The woman prison guard who sent an explicit video of herself performing a sex act to a male inmate she fell in love with was jailed for 8 months today. Abby Levins admitted she formed an inappropriate relationship with armed robber Sherome Blair while he was serving a 9-year jail sentence on the wing where she worked. The 32-year-old prison officer became besotted with Blair, telling him she loved him, wanted his children, and calling him her husband in phone calls and text messages. She sent him a pornographic video of herself and sexual texts to 2 mobile phones he had illegally smuggled into prison during an 8-month fling, a sentencing judge heard. Their illicit relationship had continued even after the prisoner was transferred away from High Down Jail in Surrey, where he was serving time for his role in a £300,000 diamond heist and was on remand as a suspect in an attempted kidnap case. The pair met in May 2010 after Levins had been transferred to High Down from nearby women's prison HMP Downview after she became a prosecution witness in a corruption case against a former Downview governor. She denied she ever had sexual contact with Blair. However, she admitted she did send him a self-filmed pornographic video of herself on June 12, 2011. The video was sent the day before he was transferred to HMP Pentonville in London. Levins carried on communicating with Blair via texts and calls to mobile phones he had smuggled inside prison, even after he had moved from her care. She also burned him music CDs which were posted to him in Pentonville. Following a tip-off in June 2012, police officers raided Levins' home in Wallington, Surrey, and seized a large number of love letters Blair had sent to the prison warder. Thanks for joining me today. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Thank you.